Make no mistake, the past 6 months have been torture for Graham Brown and his daughters, Katie and Vicky. Frustration and despair have been compounded by the disquieting anguish that, somewhere out there, the killer of their beloved Charlotte was congratulating himself for getting away with it. Ever since that day in court last July when they learned that Jack Shepherd, the man who took Charlotte out on that fatal speedboat ride, had gone on the run, they have longed for one thing, that he, a killer, face up to his crime and return to Britain to serve his 6-year jail sentence. Charlotte, 24, was on a first date with Shepherd on December 8, 2015, when the speedboat had taken her out on flipped over and threw her into the icy River Thames just before midnight. Yet although Shepherd was convicted of her manslaughter last July, had already absconded and, it has transpired, was living the high life in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia. After the Mail offered a reward of £25,000 for information leading to his capture, the hunt for Shepherd took on fresh momentum. Aware that the net was closing in, the 31-year-old web designer handed himself into the Georgian authorities on Wednesday. The game was up.Yet any sense of relief that Mr. Brown, 55, and Charlotte's sisters, Vicky, 31, and Katie, 30, felt quickly turned to anger. Far from chastened, before handing himself in this week, a smirking Shepherd gave an interview claiming it was Charlotte who was driving the boat at the time of the crash. Seemingly untroubled by any sense of shame, he gave a little wave to the cameras, and concluded, "I hope justice will be done." And everyone can move forward with their lives. Further insult was added to injury yesterday when he claimed in a court appearance in Georgia that not a single day passes without him thinking about the loss of Charlotte's life. He added that he had surrendered because he knew being on the run was causing her family more pain. Curious behaviour, one might think, from a man using British taxpayers' money to appeal his conviction while hiring £15,000 lawyers, one a former glamour model who has appeared in the Georgian equivalent of Strictly Come Dancing, to fight extradition. But the breathtaking cynicism does not stop there. In a new self-serving law, Shepherd also claimed he is suicidally depressed and that his life is in danger if he returns to Britain. Again, pictures from the courtroom showed the trademark Shepherd smirk.For the Browns. Teresa sensed that he is taunting them all over again. Now, in an emotional, no-holds-barred interview, the family tale of the grief and devastation Shepherd continues to inflict on their family. He has not thought about us or Charlie from the start, says Vicky. If he had, he would have cooperated with the police, He would have turned up at court and given us answers about what happened that night. He would not have fled the country, he would not be blaming my sister for her own death, he would not be appealing his conviction, and he would not be laughing and joking when handing himself in. He certainly would not be hiring lawyers to fight his extradition.But saying he handed himself in for our sake, he did so for purely selfish reasons. He's arrogant enough to think his appeal will be successful. Mr. Brown adds, he has no reason to fear for his life, as far as my family and I are concerned. He stood 10 feet away from Jack Shepherd at 3 pre-trial court appearances and have always stayed composed and not spoken a word to him. The family regard his claim that Charlotte was at the wheel of the boat at the time of the crash as particularly inflammatory. Let us be clear on this, says Katie. There is no proof that Charlie was driving at a point of impact. This was accepted in court based on Jack Shepherd's first statement, where he said he thinks she was driving but he cannot remember if he had taken the wheel back before the impact. There are no witnesses to see who was driving, we only have his word, and he has been proven to be a compulsive liar. In fact, if Charlie was driving, the court found that this was more negligent, as Shepherd was the master of the vessel, to allow a novice to drive his defective speedboat. In his interview, Shepherd said had had something to drink but was not tested or anything, which may give the impression had been drinking only moderately. Katie, however, says there is plenty of evidence that Shepherd was paralytic. Witnesses in court described him as stinking of alcohol and clearly drunk, she says. Unfortunately, his blood was not tested until 17 hours later. Charlie's bloods were around the drink-drive limit, and so she must have drunk about 2 or 3 glasses of wine. There was proof of 3 bottles of wine being consumed between them that night. You do the maths. He also stated in his first interview that he was the most drunk he had ever been. I think Shepherd's problem is that has forgotten what he said at the time and is now inventing a new script. Shepherd has further provoked the Brown family by claiming this week that he had apologized to Mr. Brown on the phone after Charlotte's death. He said, "I'm so sorry, Graham, but he didn't want to hear it and hung up. I've only spoken to him once, but he took the opportunity to tell me I would have a very bad time in prison." Mr. Brown says this is a complete lie. I have never spoken to Jack Shepherd, he adds. He has never called me, never said sorry, and it's absolutely disgraceful that he is suggesting this now. Katie adds, there was never any phone call. None of us has ever spoken to this man. Learning that Shepard was enjoying the high life in Georgia has been profoundly painful for Charlotte's family. While he was seeing the scenery in Georgia and visiting nightclubs, we were suffering the agony of the trial and being left with unanswered questions, says Vicky. He received legal aid but has somehow managed to afford a holiday in Georgia visiting extravagant ski resorts, paid £15,000 of lawyer bills and also hasn't paid back £50,000 in loans that he took out just before fleeing. Shepard also upset the family by suggesting Mr. Brown had used his position as a civil servant of some influence to help bring the case to trial. Mr. Brown dismisses this claim as utterly preposterous. Indeed, he was so traumatized by his daughter's death that he gave up his position as a population manager with the prison service to take on a part-time role collating prison statistics. I was looking at promotion, but after the tragedy I couldn't cope, he says. I'm Mr. Nobody now. The idea that I had some sort of influence over the case is ridiculous. Despite all the provocation, the family try not to waste too much emotion on Shepard. All Charlotte's father asks for is justice to be done, for Shepard to serve the 6-year sentence handed down in his absence at the Old Bailey. I feel nothing for Shepard. I simply have a strong sense that he needs to be in prison, says Mr. Brown. That's where he belongs. Charlotte has had her life stolen from her. God forbid this should happen to any other family. He got 6 years for my daughter's life. It doesn't seem more to me, but objectively I can see it's a fair sentence, says Mr. Brown, who lives in Sidcup, southeast London, with his second wife, Audrey, and their 8-year-old daughter, Olivia. It was on the first day of Jack Shepard's trial for manslaughter last July that the family learned that he had absconded from the country 4 months earlier. Three weeks into the trial, they found out he was conversing with his legal team via a chat line. Relief at his conviction was short-lived when they realized he wasn't around to serve his sentence. It was during the trial that Mr. Brown first heard a mention of Georgia. I think it was Katie who heard that Shepard's wife, whom he married just 2 months after Charlotte's death, had told police had gone to Georgia. Following Shepard's conviction, Mr. Brown expected the police and other authorities to step up the hunt for Shepard, and for them to extend the search to Georgia. Instead, he was disconcerted to sense a decided lull in the proceedings. Indeed, there was no visible sign of any manhunt at all. For 3 months, he thought, we are getting on with it, but we will not hurt more. But then he began to ask questions. What's happening? What are you doing? The police assured me, trust us. We are following leads, but we can't say what they are. What can be done is being done. I was dismayed to learn that Shepard's passport hadn't been taken away. But had attended all his pre-trial hearings. He wasn't considered, in the words of the police, a flight risk. Last October, Mr. Brown went to see his MP, James Brokenshire, Conservative MP for Old Bexley and Sidcup, who suggested a meeting with the Home Secretary. Then, earlier this month, the family learned that Shepard had been granted leave to appeal, and was receiving thousands of pounds in taxpayers' money to fund the action. We know in August that Shepard had lodged an appeal, but we understood it wouldn't be heard while he was still a fugitive, says Mr. Brown. So you can imagine our shock when it was granted. Mr. Brown was determined to up the temperature. He, Katie and Charlotte's mother, Rod Zwickens, met with Home Secretary Sajid Javid in Westminster on Tuesday. The National Crime Agency was set up on a link, and they said it had been working all weekend, he says. It felt like something was finally happening. You could sense the full might of the Home Office behind us. The very next day, over in the former Soviet Republic of Georgia, Shepard handed himself in. When Mr. Brown finally took the call he'd been praying for, he was overwhelmed with emotion. It was our police liaison officer. He said, it's good news, has been located, has in police custody in Georgia. My eyes welled up. It was a tremendous relief. Sometimes in life things happen and you find it difficult to speak. This was one of those times. If and when Shepard is extradited, Charlotte's family will be there to hear his case at a court of appeal. Mr. Brown has been told Shepard will also face charges relating to his absence at a manslaughter trial. I've been told he could face a custodial sentence for this of up to 12 months, says Mr. Brown. He reveals he has also taken out a civil claim against Shepherd.I was determined to do it just to make his life a little bit harder. I'm claiming the maximum I can in our case. Fund 11,000. I don't expect to see a penny of it from Shepherd, but at least he'll get some county court judgments dropping through his door. Mr. Brown, Katie and Vicky, think and talk all the time about Charlotte, the beloved daughter and sister stolen from them just over 3 years ago. She is buried in a cemetery in Kent. Next to her grave is a wooden bench Charlotte's family had made in her memory. It reads, "Charlie, you are never far away, you walk beside us every day. Unseen, unheard, but always near, always loved, always missed and forever dear." On goal unites them, to see Jack Shepherd serve his sentence and to give our beloved daughter and sister the justice that she deserves.